I've been talking about Genshin Impact characters in basketball for about half a year now, but what if we take the topic and flip it the other way around? In today's video, we will be putting some of the greatest players of all time into the hit gacha game Genshin Impact. The way we're gonna be doing this is simple. For every element in the game, we will be assigning one player that fits the bill the most, and afterwards, I will also give my opinion on who the strongest character would be. We will be basing the choices off of alignment with the vision and also a lot of sprinkled bullshit. And don't worry, because I'll get started right now. Mondstadt is the land of wind and freedom. It's important to note that all visions have a meaning attached to them. Vision holders only receive their powers through A. Major plot death, B. Traumatic events, or C. Fucking terrorism if you're clean. And the visions that these characters receive are based on their character. Also, the Archons aren't the ones who distribute these visions. Instead, it is a form of acknowledgement from Celestia or whatever the fuck. I don't know, Genshin's lore is way too damn big. But anyways, bottom line is that Anemo is given to a person who has a strong desire for freedom. But freedom has a lot of definitions that make it seem ambiguous. For example, Rajon received Anemo because she wants to be free of the knowledge that her old friends and family are likely dead. Scaramouche wants to be free from his past. Jean wants to protect Mondstadt, so I guess she receives freedom because she protects the land of the free or something. But then you get Sayu, who just wants to go to sleep whenever the fuck they want to. It kinda doesn't have much rhyme or reason, so let's take a look at the character's abilities. Anemo is pretty much an all-around type of element, not necessarily specializing in one role. If anything, it's the element that has characters that can fill any slot on a team. There's DPS characters, sub-DPS, supports, healers, and even just dudes that are there for the vibes. One thing they have in common though is their usage of Swirl. This is an elemental reaction that basically makes them work with half the characters in the game. In basketball terms, this would be like a pass-first point guard, basically initiating the offense and just working with everyone else. Scorers can't always create with the ball, so putting them next to a passer is almost always perfect to have. In the NBA, there are a lot of good passing points. Obviously, you have Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo, but there's also Steve Nash, John Stockton, and Magic Johnson. But the question is, which one of these players exemplify the concept of freedom? Chris Paul isn't free from the fact that he doesn't have a ring, and Magic Johnson wasn't free from his Magic Johnson, so those two are off the table. John Stockton didn't have a ring, and he also only played with one squad, so we'll count him out. And since Steve Nash only played with the Suns, we'll count him out as well. That leaves us with Rajon Rondo to be the face of Anemo. He was requesting trades in his rookie year, which already shows signs of him wanting the freedom to do whatever he wants, and after the bubble, he left the Lakers because he, quote, wants to have more activity. This obviously shows how Rondo wants to have the freedom to run the offense on the court, but that did end up making him play for like 17 teams, so I guess he's free to get traded as well. And in terms of fitting the bill of an Anemo character's playstyle, he also fits in pretty well. Rondo averaged a lot of assists throughout his career and was vital to both a Celtics and the Lakers ring, so we will be locking in Rajon Rondo as our Anemo user. Geo is an element belonging to the god of contracts Morax. In-game, this element is more defensive, which obviously fits the bill of a big man. Not to say defense is exclusive to tall players, but come on, there's like 2 guards in history that won DPOY. Along with this, Geo symbolizes persistence, determination, and hard work. So basically, we're looking for an actual dog. It's also important to note that Geo is probably the most boring fucking element in the game. What it does is it drops a crystal, which gives you a shield, so that's already nothing compared to literally everything else. But the characters are just so good, but not flashy. Like, yeah, Zhongli dropping a meteor is cool every once in a while, but other than that, you're just throwing pillars and shit. Ito and Chiori are cool, but these guys aren't even the textbook shield dudes. They kind of just so happen to have Geo as their element, so it's not really Geo if you think about it. And I can't talk about boring gameplay without Ningguang gameplay. Who actually enjoys this? That's besides the point though, since we're trying to look for an NBA player that represents Geo. Given the fact that Morax is the god of contracts, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that we gotta look for a defensive, hardworking player that only played with one team and is boring as fuck to watch. And lo and behold, it's Tim Duncan. Mr. Fundamental himself is the perfect way to describe Geo. Sure, he never won DPOY, but he was still really good. And if we're basing defense off awards, then that means Braun and Kobe aren't good defenders. Anyway, Tim Duncan was the perfect all-around player who could basically do everything you wanted in a superstar. And given the fact that most people forget him the same way most people forget Geo, I feel he's the perfect way to describe this element.
You have no idea how good Tim Duncan was! Oh my god!
Electro is probably my favorite element in the game in terms of characters. Most of them are coded to be DPS and sub, with only a few supports and like one healer. As you can tell, they're mainly built to be the focal point of the offense. Raiden is the battery that sets up everyone on the team, Cloran and Kachin go on field to carry for a while, Yamiko sets up turrets for reactions. When it comes to damage, these guys are usually the ones that get the job done. In lore, Electro is given to people that have a strong identity. Basically people that are completely dedicated to themselves and who they are. As well, Electro characters tend to be weirdos and outcasts, so that's something to take note of. And when it comes to basketball, there aren't really that many stars that fit the bill. For starters, you could say Dennis Rodman, since he was basically the battery for MJ and Pippen's scoring, and also he was a crackhead who did all the crazy shit for the Bulls. But really, if you think about it for a little bit longer, it's pretty clearly Allen Iverson. For one, he literally influenced black culture in the entire league from just being himself, and when you think of electric players, AI was the founding father of clip farming. Pairing this up, the offense in Philadelphia's 2001 run was catered to fit with Iverson, so because of this, I feel like there shouldn't be that much argument for AI being the face of Electro. And when it comes to Dendro, it's a lot more complicated than a high school situationship. So Dendro has a lot of moving parts, which all tie back to elemental reactions. I'm not gonna get into the details, but basically Dendro is a pure support element. So transferring this into NBA terms, it would kind of just be a player who does a bit of everything and complements every other player. And at the same time, they don't need to have the ball in order to dominate. Think rebounds, steals, assists, blocks, and scoring, but not through shot creation. More of just being a pest and getting your own shot off ball. Reading on theories and sources online, Dendro is obviously focused on wisdom, so I decided to search for players with really high GPAs and IQ levels. The results gave me players like Dikembe, Jeremy Lin, Pau, and Chris Bosh, but I couldn't really settle on which one I agree with the most. But I realized that I was looking at it in the wrong direction. Your grades don't fucking matter when you're being paid to put a ball inside a hoop, so I re-angled and looked at ball IQ, and I ended up with Nikola Jokic. On the court, you can see how much he commands his team through his basketball IQ, and his playmaking more than matches his scoring. And yes, he is a scorer, but the way he does it is extremely unorthodox. I would know because I watched this man torch my fucking team in the playoffs. Twice. Yes, it's a really common argument that Jokic is the passing guy, but his scoring is honestly way more lethal at times. Basically, he can benefit from being the ball guy, but he's equally as good at literally everything else. His passing and general work on the court made him look like a LeBron clone without the athleticism. And speaking of which, his ball IQ is absolutely insane. It's really satisfying to watch his passing highlights and just generally how much he likes to flex his thinking skills. And for those reasons, he is my pick to represent Dendro. Now, the thing with researching these visions is that the meaning is usually easy enough to find. The same cannot be said with Hydro. A lot of sources say characters living a masked life, some say those who want to help others, and another said that it's about characters with strong faith. There's not really that much of a pattern when it comes to these characters as well, so it's really vague. Also, it's kind of hard to find an NBA player living a masked life. The only one I can name is Ja Morant with his thug personality, but he just doesn't seem like the type to be Hydro. So instead, we're gonna be reaching, but it makes a lot of sense when you hear it. Splash Brother.
Give it to you. Wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out and stainless steel.
Curry is the first person that comes to mind when thinking of Hydro. If you think about it, he basically helped the most people in the NBA by making the three-point shot insanely popular. It caused a domino effect to where basically every star player in the league right now knows how to shoot from deep. Plus, he also has strong faith in the Golden State Warriors, being loyal and staying with them despite having the absolute garbage season of 2020. And come on, he's literally a splash brother. And now we're down to two more elements, with the first one being Pyro. This element is usually offensive and more focused on the killing power aspect. Characters that are given this element are usually passionate, dedicated, and tend to have a large personality. Minus Diluc. Now, this is an element that comes with a lot of choices. Larger-than-life personality would make you think of characters like Ja Morant and Shaquille O'Neal, and in terms of being dedicated, obviously every singular player to ever touch the league would fit here, except maybe Jokic. Now, at this point in the video, there's probably a lot of wannabe old heads that are fuming because of the lack of 90s players. I already mentioned Dennis Rodman, but other than that, there's basically no one. But for Pyro, you could argue Michael Jordan because he kind of fits both of the categories. But me personally, I'm not sure if some guy who likes gambling and treats his teammates like shit could be worthy of a vision holder. So instead, we have LeBron James is not only a really good player, but also a person with a large personality. Fans love him not only as a player, but also because of who he is as a person. There's literally zero other people that act like LeBron in this league while playing at such a high level, so it fits perfectly in my opinion. You can't deny the fact that he fits the bill either, since he played for the Miami Heat. So that's just kind of crazy. Michael Jordan's a cool idea for Pyro, but in the end, LeBron James represents a worthy Pyro user. We done with the 90s. And finally, we have reached Cryo. If you look at their lineup of characters, you can see that these are the ones that got absolutely hoed. Rosario was literally raised by bandits, Eula was born into an aristocratic family, Diona's dad is a deadbeat, Chi-Chi is literally dead, and basically everyone is just going through some shit. But when it comes to the Vision's meaning itself, it represents being conflicted. And I have no fucking clue how to translate that to the NBA. Like, the only person that comes to mind immediately is AJ Griffin, since he literally left the league to go follow Jesus. But like, imagine putting AJ Griffin next to all of these guys. After a bit of thinking, I eventually came up with the idea of a player that was set up to be loyal to a franchise but was either failed by said franchise or had to go to a different team in order to win a ring. Basically, a player who had to decide between the team and himself. Now, there's a lot of players who had to jump teams in order to win a ring. Paul Pierce, Kawhi Leonard, and Kevin Durant come to mind. Kawhi specifically went through some shit, seeing as how he found out his dad died after he played a game at 16 years old. But really, he didn't even want to be on the Raptors when he won the chip. He literally dipped to go play in Los Angeles the year after. And Durant wasn't even really failed by Oklahoma, he just kinda left to go play with the Warriors. So this leaves Paul Pierce, but I think that there's someone else who fits the bill better, and he just so happens to be a teammate of Pierce, Kevin Garnett. While there aren't that many significant stories of his upbringing, he was practically failed by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Despite being an MVP on the Wolves, he wasn't surrounded by the right pieces. He even came back to the team later on in his career to help the team out. This shows how despite the fact that he was willing to give everything to Minnesota, the organization just wasn't giving him shit. That's basically where I get the idea of conflict from, and it's also kind of the reason why he left to go play with Boston. And plus, Minnesota's cold as hell, so that's why I have Kevin Garnett as the basketball symbol of Cryo. And with that, we now have the 7 players to represent the 7 elements in Genshin Impact. Of course, there's a lot of debate for each one of these, but these are the ones that I see make the most sense. Now, to decide the strongest, we will imagine that each of these characters have their visions and are in the game itself. Their abilities will be based on their basketball skills. So for example, if a player is a dunker, they would have a bash ability. Shooters would use bows and stuff like that. And if you ask me who would be the strongest out of these 7, it would probably be Allen Iverson. Think of him as like Kazuha if he was an Electro DPS, or literally just Claran with more swag. Obviously, LeBron and Jokic would be up there, but dude, Iverson with Electro would literally be the fastest person into that. I'm not even joking. Imagine this motherfucker crossing up a Electro, dog. And with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. And if you did, consider leaving a like and subscribing. And until next time.